Hi, it's your old friend Steve from French Lick Resort. Boy, do we miss you. But these are unprecedented times and we all have to do what we have to do because we're all in this together. Rest assured though, when we get the all clear to reopen, we're going to be even cleaner and prettier than ever. We thought in this interim period that it'd be kind of nice to stay in touch by sharing some of the stories from our great history. A lot of fascinating things have unfolded here. In fact, this year marks the 175th anniversary of the French Lick Springs Hotel. So what better time than now to take you back to the very beginning, from the days of the buffalo, the Native Americans, and the fur traders. Let's go. We begin our story in the 1730s, as fur traders, mainly French, are the first known white men to make their way into the wilderness of the Northwest Territory. They came first via the rivers, trading with the Native Americans they found here. They supplied animal pelts in exchange for metalware and items common to the Europeans, but rare and valuable to the native population. An increasing demand for more and higher quality fur led the traders to ask about hunting and trapping inland, away from the waterways. That would lead them to the paths the natives followed, the buffalo trails, carved by great migrating herds. The Buffalo Trace would become an important part of Indiana history. We pick up our story in 1742 when the French acquire Vincennes by means of a gift deed from the Indians. On the banks of the Wabash River, Vincennes starts out as an important stop for early traders. Over time, it also becomes a strategic and highly valued military outpost. Passing from France to the British in 1763, the Redcoats take over, much to the consternation of American colonists about to rebel in the face of British rule. It all came to a head in 1779. When Colonel George Rogers Clark led a group of Virginia militiamen on a long, perilous march through frozen, flooded backcountry and staged a surprise attack on a much bigger British force inside Fort Sackville at Vincennes. Capturing British Governor and General Henry Hamilton, Clark's brilliant and decisive victory was hailed far and wide and gave fledgling America a foothold in the Northwest Territory. Clark's men would soon cut overland trails that provided a route more direct than the Buffalo Trace between Vincennes and his base at the Falls of the Ohio near Louisville. Clark's Trace would put French Lick on the map, and George Rogers Clark would be recognized as a true hero of the American Revolution. Despite the glory that came in his 20s, George Rogers Clark's life unwound tragically. He was never properly reimbursed by Virginia or the federal government for the personal debt he'd amassed in funding those military campaigns. Clark was given land for his efforts. Clark's grant along the banks of the Ohio River across from Louisville became today's Clarksville. But Clark lost or was forced to sell much of the land as those warrior debtors closed in on him. He died penniless on his sister's farm outside of Louisville. It was well after his death that Clark's heroic feats were fully recognized with the building of the George Rogers Clark National Monument. It's on the banks of the Wabash River in Vincennes, where Fort Sackville sat in 1779, the very place where George Rogers Clark earned the title of Conqueror of the Old Northwest. If you drive there along Highway 150, you're following Clark's Trace through the Springs Valley westward through Shoals in Lagodi. In 1780, the federal government created the Land Ordinance, regulating land sales in the Northwest Territory. That included what would become Indiana. Following the rivers, the Buffalo Trace, and trails cut by George Rogers Clark and others, settlers flowed north and west. By 1816, Indiana registered the necessary 60,000 people to be considered for statehood. It was granted December 11, 1816. Indiana became the 19th state. The rich mineral and salt deposits that attracted the buffalo to the French Lick area attracted settlers as well. The salt provided a ready way to preserve food for homesteaders and travelers alike. However, later government-backed efforts to commercially mine the salt would fail. Still, the area would continue to grow as trails became early roads, and in 1820 the first stage route from New Albany to the French Lick area was established. It would soon go all the way to Vincennes. With it came roadhouses, way stations, and other enterprises, including some frontier gambling. Little did we know what lay ahead in the hospitality and gaming businesses for us. We hope you enjoyed that look back at our early history based on the original artwork of Pat Clark, who was part of our team here during the bicentennial. We're going to pick it up in our next installment with what happened here in the Springs Valley, French Lick, how the two hotels started out, and how the towns grew up around them. It's quite a story. We have quite a history, and we're happy to share it with you and looking forward to sharing it with you again here as soon as we get the all clear. Take good care of yourselves, be kind to each other, wash those hands. We'll get through this together. See you soon.